I'm E,
I'm Dee.
and today we're going over the Real Housewives of Potomac episode 8, season 8. And this episode is called Hard Conversations, which there were some hard conversations. I don't think I was ready for it. I'm not going to tell you how I was watching this episode because it'll be like that was a danger to society. But, there was some hard conversations. So I think that's an appropriate title. But of course, there's drama too. There has to be,
Great.
or at least the buildup of drama for the next episode, which seems to be a doozy. But we'll go over this episode.
Well, just a quick correction. It's episode 9 of
Oh,
season
we're
8.
9 now?
We're at 9, yeah.
75. That's how long it feels, guys.
A million, yeah.
B.
Okay, so this is an article from Vulture. So, be mindful. We're reading through here. This isn't our words. We will give you our words and our opinions. Don't worry. Just throwing it out there. Okay, so according to Vulture, it took 3 major holidays, a multiple week hiatus, and a whole new year, but we have finally freed ourselves from the shackles of chicken-ish bingo and returned our ladies of Potomac back to where they belong. I have to agree with that. Go ahead and use that as my words right there. The trip was miserable to watch and a visibly taxing experience for the cast in their return round robin package to friends and family. They can only muster up generic platitudes like, oh yeah, the food was good, in between deep sighs. The women arrived in Texas in 2 clear camps and left with those lines even further cemented. They didn't even stop for a good barbecue. A true failure all around. This is facts. Major facts.
True story.
Despite the cast's resistance to committing to their jobs, Mia and Karen really step up this episode by trying to deliver compelling stories and interactions with their colleagues across the board. My major complaint this season has been an unwillingness to flesh out conflict on camera, as well as an obsession over marital strife at the expense of understanding other parts of the women's lives. In this episode, both Mia and Karen delivered well on both accounts, working to move the dialogue forward amongst the cast as well as expand on significant parts of the women's personal stories for well-balanced story that gives a peek at what some of the best of Potomac could be. Very true. So Mia has been a bit of a controversial figure since her arrival on the show. Still, her upside has always been high. She is a bit delusional, engages in absurdities, thinks quickly on her feet, and isn't one to linger on conflict after addressing it. There have definitely been blights. Her beef with Wendy was shameful, and her fallout with Jacqueline was both uncomfortable and incoherent. But this episode showcases her potential as a North Star for the franchise moving forward. She has been nurturing a budding relationship, see alliance, with Robin this season, but that doesn't preclude her from getting her jabs in on Juan and her now estranged husband during a couple's cooking class. Okay, so let's give a quick little rundown of what it is Mia did. So Mia executed her task with precision, not shown on either of the couple's kitchen counters. She begins by casually reminding us of their financial struggles, mentioning that they don't have a nanny who helps with cooking anymore, before saying into her prolonged frustration with how Gordon handles their ongoing issues. Poor Gordon seems not to see the blow coming as Mia intentionally lays the breadcrumbs and intentional public distance in her transition to her next relationship. And it's fascinating to watch this happen in real time. In between pasta dough needs, Mia then casually asks Juan with the casualness of someone asking about the day's commute, "You really put your credit card down? You couldn't do that over the phone?" Juan responds with the mush-mouth version of the same incoherent and unbelievable hotel story he's told 8 different times, which, as Mia pointed out, sounds rehearsed at this point. But Mia disarmed him, and he took it in stride and spoke his own words on camera instead of forcing Robin to address the situation on her own. Perhaps he was too busy thinking about all the other job hunt calls he could have been talking while still mic'd. Robin and Juan were trying to ensure we knew he was actively seeking employment. Maybe he can run Robin's new Glow 30 franchise while he's waiting for those calls to get returned. Men get facials too. So before we go a little bit more into Mia, what did we think about that little couple's activity?
Well, when Juan and Robin were walking in and he got a phone call, I really thought he said, "Hey, babe," like, or "Hey, babe." I'm like,
Really?
yeah, I like kept replaying it. I'm like, what are you saying? And then he kept talking about the assistant coach and stuff. And I'm like, he's not that dumb. He's not that dumb. I'm like, so if you guys know what he said, leave it in the comments because I could have sworn I heard, hey, babe.
Wow, I
Go
didn't
back and listen to it.
know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to because I didn't notice. Okay.
Yeah, I was just shocked. So when Mia's, she's a fan favorite. And by fan favorite, I mean one of my favorites, especially
Hey.
towards the end. I'm like, yeah, she's messy, but you kind of see all aspects of Mia. She's,
Yeah,
you see all her life. She don't care. We know she got surgery. You know where.
everywhere.
People everywhere. Like I didn't need to know that 3.5 seconds of you coming into the show.
Right,
Like
right.
she just displays her whole life, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, the purpose of the show. You know,
Right.
and I was thinking, I know I'm going a little off track, but I was thinking today, Giselle doesn't do any of those things. And she's been pretty quiet this whole season. Like
Strategy.
Ashley is the one that like kinda stirs the pot a little bit, but this season has been really like carrying on its own with like the Robin drama and then the NECA Wendy thing. Like Giselle's just there, which she's usually the one that's stirring up something. So
Right.
I think Mia should be in reasonably shady because she is the queen of shady. Now going back to this episode, she's like, well, they rehearsed this. I'm like, she is a good friend and a terrible friend at the same time.
She pulls it off. She really
She
pulls.
pulled it off well, and people like,
Yeah,
accept her for who she is. And
yeah.
this is Mia. And if you don't understand her, I don't know how, but you can see her through and through.
So we, I don't know if it was in the last episode or one of the prior recaps we did. We said she is the real MVP. Like Mia has, like you said, she's been herself. She's been consistent. She doesn't care that you know any of her business. She will put it out there, and I love that about her. Yes, of course she's messy, and sometimes I'm like, oh, girl, filter, just a tad bit of a filter. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm like, you know what? No, because that wouldn't be her. So I appreciate her candor. I appreciate her willingness to, like, at the very least, like, share information, because obviously the other ones haven't. I'll get to my gripe with Giselle here in a second, but like the way in which Mia interacted with Juan, I thought was hilarious,
Me
because
too.
it was like it wasn't even coming from a place of like where she looked angry. She genuinely looked messy. Like she
Yeah.
genuinely did. Like she
Was almost dumbfounded a little bit. Like, you were really that dumb to do that? Like,
and
and
that's the
he
thing.
was stuttering. He
Oh
was
yeah,
stuttering.
he was.
So I was
Yeah.
like, you didn't rehearse this good enough because now you're trying to remember the story and how you
Yeah.
said it. He got caught.
For sure. But I just
Yeah.
thought it was so funny the way she interacted with him. The whole time Robin's just like crickets. And so about her and Gordon's situation. Like, yeah, you can kind of see where this is going and everything. And I kind of feel bad for Gordon, but I also don't think that he is really seeing her perspective of things. Like, I don't think he is like fully understanding where she's coming from, or like why she feels the way she feels. So maybe, obviously they haven't shown any other sessions, but I know they were doing like couples therapy or whatever. Like maybe they needed some more of that, because it doesn't seem like he fully grasps what the whole situation is. Now there was one thing that Robin said that I thought was interesting. When they, I think Gordon asked, "How did the trip go?" or whatever, and then Wendy, I don't know, not Wendy, Mia said something about if she talked to Juan or whatever, and that she said Juan doesn't want to hear
The girl
all the
drama.
info. Yeah, and I was like, he didn't even try to like deny it. He didn't even try to like, no, he was just like, whatever. And it's like, dude, come on. You can't even listen to your wife. Like, technically, these are her work problems.
This
Like,
is true. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like why wouldn't you be willing to listen to her work problems? But anyway, I thought that whole scene was like, it was hilarious. I was just like, wow, what are we doing here? But anyway, Mia made the whole show. She made the whole
But
episode.
you know, Juan, he is unemployed. He needs to put his happy Eddie face on and
Not happy.
pretend to love his wife.
Okay, I think I mentioned this to you earlier. But when I was watching it, I was like, wow, he showed up for a second event in
Yeah.
one season? This is and then my partner was like,
Because of the reunion, we already know.
oh yeah. My partner was like, he doesn't have a job, he needs to make that money. And I was like, damn.
Hmm.
And he will ride for Juan. He will defend Juan. But this time he was like, listen, don't try to understand him. He's insane.
Okay. Okay.
He's insane. But when he said that, I was like, that's the truth. Like, because
Yeah.
you know that he really, even when they're like at home or whatever, he really wouldn't like do much on camera. And I feel like there were times, if I don't remember correctly, let me know. But weren't there times where like he would tell them to shut the mic off or take the cameras off, or he would like try to go to another room to talk to Robin, like where they weren't being
I think,
filmed?
yeah.
And now all of a sudden he's fine in front of the camera. He's discussing his private matters in front of the camera. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, somebody
Well, you
needs.
know, he screwed up big time. So this is the least he can do.
This is true. This is true. But anyway, even though it was still like Robin and Juan, being a part of the whole like plot line or whatever, I at least found that whole activity like to be pretty funny. And they were terrible at making pasta, by the way.
Yeah.
That just,
She needs
oh,
her nanny back.
damn. Okay, all right. So let's continue. Later we see more of Mia's softer side in a very emotional and revealing scene. It's no secret that Mia has had a rough upbringing, but as I mentioned earlier, one of her shortcomings is that the show struggles to show the quirks of her personality, good or bad. For example, the fallout with her best friend Jacqueline escalated very quickly, and most of what was captured clearly amounted to lingering and deep best friend issues that we have no real insight into, that are being filtered through minor squabbles. Through the luncheon Karen pulls together for PAVE, the nonprofit for sexual violence that the Grand Dame supports, we find out that not only has Mia survived sexual violence, but that she was originally with Jacqueline the night it happened and was subconsciously punished. She has subconsciously punished Jacqueline for leaving Mia behind. As she admitted, that doesn't make it right, but it's an honest revelation of her coping mechanisms over the year. The PAVE event was beautifully done. All the women put their conflicts aside to not only support Karen and survivors of sexual violence, but also to support one another, and they looked beautiful while doing so. It is genuinely stirring to see the women in this cast come forward with their stories of experiencing sexual violence and using their platform to remove the shame of healing from it as Black women. It is equally heartbreaking that so many of them had stories to share. Giselle's concern for her daughter's protection as she sends her off to college in Florida feels palpable and real, and not merely a concern for the camera. Karen has done an admirable job of keeping this conversation alive in the circle. And while I do not advocate for trauma being the main point of connection between people, it does showcase how all of these women are humans who have lived full, complicated lives beyond the viral clips that are endlessly dissected on social media by the housewives. So, before we go any further, that was a lot.
That was.
You go first, because that was difficult.
Well, I didn't think it was going to get that deep.
Yeah,
Honestly, from the clips, I thought that Mia was gonna do, some kind of scene or something, or more
yeah,
of the ladies were gonna follow her to the bathroom. But her just giving us all this information that she's been a victim, or not. I don't want to say a victim, but that she's experienced, what she did, and
yeah,
telling Ashley. I thought it was admirable that one, she mentioned it
yeah,
and let us know, how this relates to her and it still hurts her and how
yeah.
she's coping. Two, I was shocked when she said Jacqueline was with me and,
My
this
God.
is why I treat her this way. And,
Whew.
she knows it's not right. I'm like, wow. Like, we were here judging her.
Yeah,
I think all the viewers, I could say myself included, I'm like, damn, she's a shitty friend. But when
yeah.
you look at her history and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, they were young,
Yeah.
Obviously it wasn't Jacqueline's fault, but like, the chain of events, it's like, man, she was there, she left me alone. Mia has dealt with abandonment and, her history,
Yeah.
her childhood history. So you can see how all these things still really affect her,
Yeah.
So I love her openness
Yeah.
in this aspect. And I think that, I was shocked that the ladies have all kind of dealt with this.
Oh, I
I'm
know.
I didn't know. I think Karen has done she has worked with PAVE in the past, but I
Yeah.
don't remember, I guess, everybody not everybody, but most of the ladies talking about it.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me off, and I was like, I'm like,
It was emotional.
it
And
sucks that so many women have to deal with these things, or people, but
yeah.
in this case, mostly women, when we have to be so guarded and how we are, and this is a whole big conversation, or like how we
Yeah.
dress or how we, you know, speak to one another, because
Yeah.
things could get misconstrued. No to somebody means yes to somebody else, and you have to make sure that you're vocal, and it's just so much pressure sometimes being a woman and being
Yeah.
respected, and make sure that you don't put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and even when you take all these precautions,
Yeah.
things can still happen. So it's
Hmm.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I was taken aback, like when they had the confessionals and multiple ladies spoke up about, their experiences, because I did not expect that. Like I knew about Karen, her situation, and I think I recalled something happening to Mia, but I didn't know if I like was remembering it correctly or not. Um, but the whole thing with Jacqueline was really sad because I think we all kind of thought the same thing. Like their issues seemed to be deeper than
Hmm.
what was playing out on the show. Like something just wasn't like adding up,
Yeah.
but I don't think that like anybody could have ever guessed it would have been, those sort of issues. And I'm glad that, you know, the show and Karen in particular are still engaging with the nonprofit, are still a part of it and bringing awareness and, doing all that. It was like a very emotionally charged like situation just because, like some people they're able to move forward and deal and they cope okay. But for others, like it is still like a difficult thing. Any kind of reminders, any triggers are very, very difficult. So seeing Mia get up, like I did not expect, obviously all the information she provided, but she is, like we just discussed before, she's very open, she's very honest about her situations and everything. And it was just kind of like one of those things that just immediately in my mind I was like, man, so many, women, people go through this thing and, you know, it may not even lead forward like fully to violence. It could just be like unwanted touch or, things like that. Like something where someone is making you feel so uncomfortable or unsafe. Like
Hmm.
I think that's something that like women have to deal with constantly. And that's, obviously a bigger subject for a whole nother day. But, I think in society, obviously, men are raised to do these big things. Men are raised to basically take on the world, right? Like they got this or whatever. Women are raised to serve. Women are raised to just get by. It's kind of more along the lines of like, be careful, don't put yourself in these situations, don't do this, don't. It's a lot of don'ts for
Hmm.
women, for girls as you're being raised versus like boys. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he's gonna get hurt. He's just a boy. He's just being a boy. He'll be fine. It's a lot of those kind of things where they're very much like, it's okay, they got it, and women are sheltered, made fragile in some ways. And that I think obviously bleeds into other bigger problems. But anyway, that was definitely a difficult scene to get through. But I'm very glad that they did do that, that they showed all of that on the show. That was
You
like
know, to agree with the article, I don't like that, trauma, a
on.
trauma centered episode. But I mean, we got to find other ways to connect with the audience that's not, I don't want to say not so deep, but
Yeah.
we see a different side of the ladies.
Yeah.
When it's not, drama infused. This situation, like we get to know the real them. So I wish
Mhm.
there was like more instances where we see that. Because to be honest, the vacations that they have, or the whatever they're called, their little conferences, vacation conferences, it's just jam-packed drama. Like we
Yeah.
really don't see,
Yeah.
bonding and like,
Yeah.
good sisterhood
Yeah.
from shows. So, not that this was a sisterhood kind of episode, but it
Yeah.
was just nice to see, supporting a good cause.
It's interesting you say that because it just kind of hit me like in the earlier seasons, they would only do one like group cast
Yeah.
vacation. And they've switched to two now for the last couple seasons, and it's just kind of like why? Like I don't really think like there's much point to it because I feel all it does is like you say, it's just like jam pack the drama, but it's like it doesn't really help to like, make people connect with the show because I prefer to see like the day to day, like, they were back in Potomac, they were doing stuff, they were handling things, whatever, like doing like maybe some activities or whatever. I feel like I connect more to that compared to them going on all these different trips in which like they're not actually enjoying it or they're not
Hmm.
doing anything that's really relative to the place they're in. Like they went to like try whiskey, which they didn't even really care to try whiskey in
Yeah.
Austin, and then for like the boot making place, which like I think maybe one of them came out with boots, and then like they didn't go to get some barbecue, which hello Texas, and like there's rodeos, there's all these different things you could have done that are very like much a Texas thing, and I feel like they kind of
Hmm.
bypassed all that to do more of just drama related things, right? So anyway, I don't know, I don't really care for the multiple work trips that they're doing now.
Or it would be nice for it to be kind of like a show where, we see a snippet of all their lives and then them come together. Because
Yeah.
literally, this whole show is all right, you and me, and we're talking about the drama. Then I call another friend and we have lunch. We order the same things because it's always the same mac and cheese, the same tequila sunrise or whatever. And talking to about the drama with her. And then we all get together again, all seven of us, and then we talk about the drama again.
All the
So
drama. Yeah.
it's a little repetitive at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And that's why like I think a lot of people connected with Potomac in the earlier seasons because we did see a lot of their lives. We did see a lot of like what they had going on. And one of the housewives that comes to mind a lot is Monique because I constantly remember her being at home, her with her kids, her and what did Giselle call him, big boy? Yeah, like I constantly remember like their family unit, her doing stuff, like that's what I kind of correlated to like Potomac, even though she came on a couple seasons after it started. But like, I liked that aspect of it all, that it was just very much like she's a housewife. But she was obviously later on in the seasons, you see that she's trying to like have her own endeavors, do more things. And then the kind of strife that was causing in her marriage at the time because her husband didn't want her to take on too many things. Like he wanted her home to do these, like, so those are kind of topics that I'm sure plenty of housewives deal with, plenty of like, regular people in the country that watch like can relate to. Not, oh, let's go to chicken ish bingo and, drink and just start drama, it's like those are things that like nobody really, I don't know, it's not necessarily relatable, like taking all these different trips that like you're only kind of going to like get into fights, drink and eat. Like that's it. That's just really all they're doing, So it's like, I don't know. It just didn't, I know that like Real Housewives is supposed to be ostentatious and all these different things, but I felt like Potomac was a little bit different in that it didn't focus so much on that. And now it's kind of trying to, and I don't like it.
I think it was the perfect mix. I mean, at least to me, between Beverly Hills and Atlanta. Like
Oh,
it, you,
yeah.
yeah, because they were like bougie, a little ostentatious, not like Beverly Hills. That's mad money over there.
Yeah.
Um, then we have Atlanta, which was more, drama, a little more, I don't want to call it hood, but a little more, not give you buck. So that was like a perfect little mix for me. And now
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. I mean, I'm still watching it, but
Right.
I just hope it gets back to what it used to be.
Yeah, yeah, same. Okay, let's continue. So, unfortunately, the power and impact of these moments are undercut by a need to continue exploring the Wendy NECA divide. Wendy finally brings her mom on camera to address the conflict, and either they did not properly prep to film what they had agreed to discuss, or the editing team did Wendy no favors because half the time it seemed like Wendy was trying to lead her mother to the answer they had agreed to say. It is legitimately confusing to add all these complications about Lebby being like a daughter and her not knowing NECA while she drinks wine out of a straw and alludes to unclear complications from an elective surgery. I don't think this is nearly as deep as they keep blowing it up to be, but Wendy should have easily handled this and kept flubbing at every step and making this drag out even longer than, it really needs to be. So, okay, real quick, because the next one kind of goes into it's still connected, but let's just discuss this portion here because I had a couple of thoughts, but you go
Go ahead.
first. Okay. I think that yes, this has been tremendously dragged out.
Hmm.
Um, it was very clear that Wendy kept trying to get her mom to say certain things,
For
but her
sure.
mom had a mind of her own very much so, and she completely undercut the whole, oh, my mom had to have surgery and I'm here worried about her, like, then she comes out and says, oh, this was an elective surgery,
Yeah.
and that she had already had it planned. And then her mom also says how Lebby was like a daughter and how people would always assume that she was another daughter. I'm like, then how is Wendy acting or was acting like she didn't know Lebe or didn't have that
Hmm.
sort of relationship with her? And then the whole thing about like the sister, and I was just like, what is going on here? Like, Wendy, we were rooting for you, girl. That's it. That's it. So,
See,
so upset.
I told you the last episode. I'm like, that procedure was like 10 minutes. Now it's elective. I'm like, girl, you're
Yeah.
just trying to deflect from what NECA said, which, as the episodes go by, we're in episode 9 now.
Yeah.
NECA's getting from like 50 to 60 to 80 to 90%. We're starting to really believe her because
Uh,
the up. And I'm rooting for her because I don't like NECA. Like, she has no friends. We're gonna mention that later. She doesn't have any friends on the show. I think she's
yeah.
pretty boring. And she's been here like what? Let's say 8 episodes at least.
Yeah.
And we don't know anything about her besides the first episode, really.
We know she's trying to have a baby and she's a
That was
lawyer.
that was the second episode.
Okay.
Other than that, we haven't seen her one on one with her man. Like he popped off and left.
It was brief. They had like they
The
were
paper.
driving to the doctor's office. No, no, no. They were driving to the doctor's office, so they had that little interaction. And then when they were at the doctor's office, discussing like, I guess,
How many
testing. Or
episodes ago was that?
I have no idea.
Exactly. Bravo, kick her out. But I mean, this
Okay.
story is really sticking, and I don't know, Wendy. If you didn't want another Nigerian person, just say that. I hate when people like think the audience is dumb. We clearly
Yeah.
see what's
Yeah.
going on. Just admit
Yeah.
it. Be like, nah, I wanted to be the only one. My bad. Okay, then we move on. That's
And then
it.
you know what happened? You're my only Nigerian, Wendy. That's exactly what happened because you're one of my faves. So you know what? I don't acknowledge the other girl because I'm a ride for you. That is the fandom that you guys have at Potomac. People will
Yeah,
ride for you, but you go and you make this whole mess for us to like literally. I don't even want to say like go against, but like for us to kind of like be like, dang, this other new girl is right, and
I
you're
know.
out here
It
making us.
hurts.
It hurts. And
It
you're trying to
hurts.
make us look like fools, Wendy, when we was rooting for you. Anyway, let me stop. Get mad.
Why do you sound like Tyra Banks? We were all rooting for you.
Go full Tyra on Wendy because I'm so upset. Like, it was unnecessary. Like you said, just say that. Just say, you don't want her there or you didn't want another Nigerian cast member, whatever the case may have been. And, especially how early on they dragged in her mother and then they dragged in the husbands because Happy Eddie unfollowed NECA's husband. And they was ready to fight. Well, really, NECA's husband was ready to fight Happy Eddie, and Happy Eddie looked like he was about to,
He looked like miserable Eddie.
he went to miserable. Anyway, I can't.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because, like I'm telling you, she's one of my faves, Wendy is, and
Mhm.
it's like, oh, I've run out of excuses for you, Wendy. I've run out because I will find an excuse. If I like you, I'm finding an excuse for you.
Oh, we know.
I'm out. I'm out. Okay. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Alrighty. So, meanwhile, Candace is trying to explore a relationship with NECA and see if the two Nigerian castmates can move forward. It's a solid no on the latter front, but the two do seem to have a bit in common beyond their peculiar taste in fashion, and that is their family planning journeys and affluent backgrounds. Candace attempts to give her advice on not escalating conflict, which the editors rightfully call out since it's come from the queen of the your mother retort. It's a tragedy that litigating an offhand LA crackhead comment is in the same episode as the women coming together to share their experiences with sexual violence and provide resources for other women. But those small glimpses of the highs this show can offer will hopefully give the production team a path to continue to go down in the episodes to come. So, here are just a few tidbits over here that were listed in Vulture. This season and last seems to have a lingering acknowledgement of health concerns, Karen's cardiac health, and Candace and her mammograms and fertility conversations. I think this is something the women are doing a great job of talking more about, considering public conversations around healthcare gaps for Black women. Shout out to the cameos of the episode, Jason, Charisse, and Eddie. We love you even if we hardly saw you. I don't recall seeing Eddie. I don't recall seeing Charisse. And who's
What?
Jason?
Huh? Jason
Who's
is Giselle's boo.
wow. I just call him
He
boy.
was in
But
the beginning for like 3 seconds that he said he was eating cereal.
nope, slipped my mind.
And then Charisse did what it was all early on. And then Charisse was with Ashley and Giselle when they were giving Charisse the rundown of what happened in Austin. I'm sure you remember.
You know what? I believe you. I believe you. Because honestly, I was just kind of like, when there were certain parts, and maybe it's because it's Giselle. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I was going to get to my Giselle gripe. But before I get to my Giselle gripe, NECA and Candace's lunch. How do we feel?
I hated their outfits. I just have to say that.
Of course.
But that was a purposeless lunch to me. I was more interested in their mac and cheese. I'm like, I wonder what kind. I was. I don't know what they discussed. I know they said something about Wendy,
Mhm.
and that's it. I don't know. NECA is not interesting to me. So when she's on screen, I'm off screen. Sorry.
So I think that that whole thing could have been just a tad bit better. I don't care about the whole thing with Wendy. I'm done. I'm over that. The whole
Mm-hmm.
NECA Wendy divide. I'm done. But when they started discussing, their fertility journeys, their fertility issues, there was a comment that NECA made about how I believe she's been trying for 7 months. And Candace acknowledged that and she said, yeah, that's too long, blah, blah, blah. They didn't provide any context, because for some people that may not seem like a lot of time, that may just be like, oh, that's fine, you should be good. But no, once you hit a certain age, after 35 or 36, I believe, normally your doctor will only give you 6 months to get pregnant naturally. If not, you start testing because there might be issues and fertility just becomes harder. I think that could have been a very good
Mm.
point to make because of the fact that I do agree with what the article is saying that they have made good points on the show discussing health issues or health related topics, with the exception of Giselle. And this would have been one of those points where I think especially the fact that these two Black women and Black female mortality has been, abysmal. That could have been something that they could have discussed about, some of the issues just even getting to be pregnant, the journey to that, and then how that, can then affect later on with the maternity mortality and all that stuff. So there's a lot of different things that I think they could have done. But just the fact that they're talking about it and it's open and, public and everything, I appreciate that because a lot of women go through that. So it's something that I'm sure could be beneficial for people to hear about. I hate that it's obviously preceded by this conflict between Wendy and NECA that I guess doesn't really exist. It's just they've all made it up. And it just seems pointless to like even bother with any of that anymore. Like I
Yeah.
just don't really I don't know. I don't get it. But do you have anything else before I get to my Giselle gripe? Because it's gonna be a minute.
Well, I did think that Candace's mom was a little abrupt, let's say, when Candace was talking to her and she was saying, hey, I'm kind of shaken, blah, blah. She was like, just get a second opinion, which is very logical to me. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I know this lady is a psychologist, right? A psychologist,
She's
psychiatrist,
something. Yeah, I can't remember what.
something.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want her as my therapist because she a little too rough too rough
Yeah.
with it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. But I am happy that Candace is talking to her and they're not blowing up or crying or something. So I did appreciate. I think their relationship has come a long way.
That's true.
I
Yeah.
do agree that they should have, dug a little deeper and, when Candace says, "Oh, I got a mammogram at 36," I'm like, "Okay, it's important." They could have
Yeah.
hit on things like that. So I agree.
Yeah, because I literally thought, oh crap, wait, does that mean I need to go get one? Like literally, it made me think of
Oh,
that
you're
immediately.
36?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'm in my
yeah.
solid 20s, which,
Right.
it's always good to be aware, check yourselves.
Oh my god.
But what's your
Anyway,
Giselle gripe? Ugh.
so the article mentioned how something about Giselle briefly or whatever. And you also talked about how Giselle hasn't really done anything this season and all that. Giselle hasn't done anything for several seasons. Let's be honest here. Aside from the whole problem with Candace and Chris last season, she did nothing. There was nothing that really happened. She had a medical emergency, towards the end of last season or the season before, that she didn't even talk about. I think it was literally handled within one or two scenes in the last episode. And then, she mentions or they brought it up to her during the reunion and that was it. And then we
Yeah.
know nothing else about it. And I think she may have mentioned in the reunion, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe at the beginning of the season, how her girls were very concerned. They were worried for her. Giselle has this image problem. It's literally a catch-22, right? She's pretty, so they are constantly pushing her to the forefront. She's, half of the green-eyed bandits. She's all these different things that they're trying. She's an OG. They're trying to make her be like, literally like the face, right? But then on the other side is the other image, which is that like she's messy, but she's not substantive. Like there's no kind of substance to her or to what she's really bringing to the show. Like
Mhm.
she's had these conversations with Grace. I feel like that could have been a little bit deeper. Instead, she has her boy toy on the phone or whatever. And you can clearly see that her daughter just kind of like seemed annoyed by it. It's like you're having a conversation with her. Continue your conversation with your daughter. Why are you bothering to call this person or whatever the case? And it's like there's not much else that can really like be discussed when it comes to Giselle. Like aside from her daughters, and that's like a quick thing. Or like at the end of the episode, I believe she discussed like with one of the women from PAVE what she could tell like Grace and as far as like advice for her being out in college and to be safe, all that. There's so much that she could dive into with all of that. And she doesn't. And it's like we get nothing. I know that like one of the seasons she spent like getting her house done, right? And they were constantly making fun of that. But like since that season, I can't tell you what else Giselle has done.
Mhm.
There's not much that's really shown of her. She's been a background character. She's become the Robin of the show. And now Robin is at the forefront. Because we used to complain Robin didn't have plot lines. Robin wasn't doing anything. Robin was just there to look pretty. Now Giselle's doing that, and Robin is the one with all the drama and everything. And Giselle randomly will go ahead and like stick up for Robin. Last episode, I didn't see her really stick up for Robin. she went to check on her after a little bit. Oh, I just wanted to give you a minute, and that was it. She didn't like start cursing people out or start defending her best friend to everybody else. Like she stayed quiet. And then she checked on Robin. And I was
Mhm.
like, that's not the Giselle that I know. That's not the Giselle that we've all like come to know, you know? It's like she's quick to talk crap. She's quick to like, have some kind of comeback or be very blunt and vocal about some things. Like, when she decided to like mess with Karen about Uncle Ben, her comment, Uncle Ben, and all that other stuff, like all these different things she's done. And then now all of a sudden it's like she's not there. Like, I don't know. And it just
Because
like annoys me.
that would be, she would have to fight with Candace. And you remember, she's just giving her the cold shoulder. So she's not trying to engage with her at all.
Yeah. But
Um,
then
yeah.
what
Go
else
ahead.
do you have going on then?
I saw on Instagram there was like I don't remember the user, but she was talking about Giselle and how much she hasn't contributed to the show. And one of the reasons this girl mentioned it was, every time Giselle brings in something that's kind of near and dear to her, and this girl mentioned that she really liked Sherman. When she brought Jamal back, she's been embarrassed. So it
Yeah.
goes back to your image thing that Giselle doesn't like to be embarrassed. She wants everybody to see her, in this certain light kind of thing. So she's not going to bring anything serious to the show because she
So
doesn't want
then,
to be embarrassed. So, Jason, he's just a little boy toy. Ain't nothing serious going on, which we see on the show now that she
yeah,
says, basically he's just like my little buddy over there.
right,
So that already has been downplayed because in the
right.
beginning of the season, it's like, oh, we're kind of together. Now it's just like a casual thing.
Yeah.
And we're never going to see anything of substance from her, which is
That's
sad.
me. Yeah. Then she shouldn't be on the show anymore. And I hate to say that because Giselle used to be one of my faves. But at this point,
She's not even shady anymore because she's beefing with the other girls. So, and she doesn't want to talk to them. So she can't be shady. So then
right,
again, Mia should be the star of the show, in
I
my
agree.
opinion,
Yeah.
just because she's the one that's most forthcoming, because even Karen shuts down after a while.
Yeah.
I think Karen is too prim and proper sometimes for
Yeah.
my liking, and for the show. We need some messiness, and Karen wants to be everybody's friend.
Yeah.
Ashley, her drama with Michael is boring.
Yeah.
Other than that, she really doesn't have anything. Robin, this is still centered about regarding Juan. This is a
Fun.
Juan thing. So
Yeah.
this is still very much Robin.
Mhm.
Me and Juan got a divorce. Me and Juan were sleeping in the same bed. Me and Juan are thinking of getting married. Me and Juan got engaged. Me and Juan got married and nobody's
Mhm.
there. Me and Juan cheated on me twice. This is still about Juan. About
Yeah.
Robin, and we thought it was going to go somewhere when she was, discussing the depression during the
Oh yeah.
pandemic and all that, but that's as much substance as we saw from her. Candace
Yeah.
is too erratic. Like we root for Candace, but then she shows her immaturity, so she can't handle being on the spotlight.
Right.
People aren't going to her shows enough. That's me being shady. Who else is there? NECA. She,
NECA.
she needs to go out because she's boring. And who else is left?
Wendy. Wendy.
Wendy had something, but I don't like this new version of Wendy. I still
Yeah.
go back to it. I miss the old Wendy pre-surgery. I'm gonna say that pre-surgery, who
Mhm.
was, 10 degrees in and, nuck if you buck that way. Now it's more image and I'm trying to be a businesswoman, but she doesn't stick with any businesses. She doesn't know what she wants to do. And I don't think that's her true character. Like we don't
Right.
see any of those like when she's being a correspondent or a professor, or we don't see any of that. We see
Yeah.
this other side of Wendy, which I don't really like.
Yeah.
So
That's.
Mia should be the star of the show.
I agree. Let's petition. I'm down. Like at this point, I'm tired. I'm tired. I
All
can't.
right. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments about this episode. What did we think about the PAVE Foundation moment
Yeah.
with Mia and all the ladies? I know it's kind of deep, but hey, we can have deep conversations in the comments as well.
Yeah.
What do we think about Giselle? Should we just kick her out of the show because she's not being shady? She's not giving us info. She's not ni picha ni cacha, like how we say it in Spanish. She's not doing
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
worthwhile. Are we
Right.
tired of talking about Robin and Juan?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
let us know what you think in the comments. But that concludes today's episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, please share our video. We're trying to grow our community so your friends could be our friends and we could all be friends. We also have social media, which Steve will tell you about.
We are on TikTok and Instagram at Hear Me Out DNE. So make sure you guys like, follow, share, and comment. We enjoy our interactions with you guys.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.